All right, let's do this then.
Let's do this.
Welcome to ICP.
Thank you.
Please just give us the introduction. Who is sitting in front of me today?
Well, my name is Wilma. I'm one of
Yeah.
the co-founders to vloxq CPQ.
Yeah,
Been running that for 3.5 years now.
nice.
My background is that I've been more or less brought up in SaaS. So I think this is my 7th or 8th startup that I'm at.
Nice.
So if you ask me if I'm well in my head, I would say no.
Got it.
Something's
Got it.
wrong up there.
Cool. Nice. Happy to have you here. And
Pleasure
we'll
to
be
be here.
covering a lot today, right?
Yeah.
But what I wanted to do, and we spoke about this earlier, of course, is I want to get to sort of, the meat of what you guys are doing
Yeah.
and sort of what you have been through so far. So I'll be hitting you with a few questions. So just a rapid fire style, and then we'll sort of back it up a little bit and talk more about your journey and yourself and so on. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Perfect. So you've already told us, but what is your role today?
My role is that I'm one of the co-founders.
Yeah.
And I'm the CRO.
Nice.
So all money in,
Yeah.
and the money should stay. That is
Right.
my headache.
Got it. Got it. You mentioned the name of the company, but I think it could be nice to hear it again.
Yeah, try it out.
Yeah.
So the company name is vloxq, stands for quick quote in Latin, but with a lot less letters.
vloxq, and that stands for?
Vloxquote in Latin.
Okay. Now it makes sense.
So now it makes sense, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, because we were like, how did they come up with that name?
Yeah, and all my friends just said, Wilma, don't name it that.
Yeah.
And I'm obvious, quite stubborn.
Yeah.
So it is a name, and my idea is that if or when you remember it,
Yeah.
you will never forget it.
Right. I love it. Nice. And then what category would you put yourselves in?
So we are in the CPQ category, stands for configure, price, and quote. So
Yeah.
when you should put together your offer to your ICP customer,
Yeah.
and you want it to be very, very easy for them to say yes, and you also want to ensure that the pricing is correct and profitable, then you use a CPQ tool.
Okay, cool. We'll get more into that later on.
I hope so.
You kind of answered a bit of this already, but I wanted to know more about like the problems that you solve and why it matters.
Yeah.
As I said, you were already, giving us a hint of what it is, but please talk about it from that perspective, the problem you solve, and why do you guys think it matters?
I'd love to. So yeah, this isn't for everyone. It is for those who have a more mature pricing strategy, I would say. The ones that actually work with pricing as a strategic tool and typically are a bit more mature as a company in whole. So we often see that a spreadsheet is employed as of today. You maybe are selling to different countries. You are more than maybe 20 sales rep.
Right.
You can no longer go out and like, hi guys, please use the last spreadsheet, please, you know. So you have to have some kind of control over this. So why this is important is, of course, from the customer point of view.
Yeah.
You do not want to sell stuff you can't deliver. So because what happens then is that you get obvious, not that satisfied customers, you get not that satisfied colleagues,
Right.
and it's very, very costly.
Right.
So why this is important, especially in this market, I would say, to grow is expensive.
Right.
It's expensive if you are VC backed. It's expensive to ask for more money. So now we really must be eager for what we already have. And what we've seen is that between 5 to 15% of their net revenue is left on the table due to costly wrongs already when you send out the quotes.
Right.
But once again, not for everybody, but the more mature companies that actually do have these headaches.
Okay. Nice.
Was that clear?
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to dig deeper into the ICP more, of course. So I'm interested about hearing more about that. How long have you guys been in business now?
3.5 years. So our first customers was up and running October 2020.
Okay, nice. And shortly, who is your ICP?
Yeah.
Or forget about the shortly, because this is the name of the show, so we got time to talk about that. But I'm saying that because I want to get back deeper into that, of course.
Of course.
But on a surface level.
Yeah, on a surface level, I would say mid-sized companies who are keen on their brand. Yeah. So not the more expensive ones, maybe in their vertical, and they sell it to different countries, and they have a mature pricing book. So what we see is that it's solar companies, manufacturing companies, machinery dealers, scale-up SaaS, those who are selling both a combination of products and services combined.
Okay, got it. Nice. And funding-wise, how are you guys funded today?
As we start off, before we start recorded, we are bootstrapped.
Yeah.
We have an enterprise delivery and enterprise SaaS solution.
Right.
So my tip is don't do that. But we are bootstrapped as of today. Yes.
Yeah. And just also tell me a little bit about how the thoughts are going there.
Yeah.
Are you can look at it from many perspectives, right?
Yeah.
Like I know there's a bit of a pride in doing it the bootstrap way. There's there's many different sort of perspectives on it and many reasons for doing it the bootstrap way. We're also bootstrapped. We're proud of that, right? But we don't know if we're always going to be that. Any thoughts on that from your perspective?
Well, it's a very good question. And I think depending on who of us, the founders and owners, you're asking and what day, the answer might be different.
Right.
We want to stay to being bootstrapped. And that is what we have in our owner directive as of now. Do I think it's possible to achieve what we want to achieve? I don't know. But from my personal perspective, I would say that I definitely put in some pride there years ago. But now I'm more experienced, maybe, for not to use any other word that being like tired and exhausted.
I don't want to do this the bootstrap way anymore.
But I also been at companies beforehand that are VC backed, so I know that that will increase, of course, the stress also in the company. So we are going to stick to being bootstrapped until for now, for moving forward.
Yeah, got it. Of course, and I mean, I know it's not a yes or a no question, as you said, of course.
It can always change.
It depends, of course, and I understand that. And then the last question before we kind of take a step back, what would you say the current ARR is, just so we know the size?
3.5 million Swedish kronor.
Okay, nice, cool. Well, let's take a step back then.
Nice.
I want to get to know more about Wilma, of course. I want to know more about your journey into SaaS. Tell me about how you ended up in SaaS.
Yeah, I still wonder.
Yeah,
I still wonder. I used to be this girl who ran to the stable, show jumping. Then, for some reason, became a personal trainer. Had a close friend, and he said, "You are so stubborn. You should like work with sales."
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Is that a good or bad thing? I choose it to be good, right? And this is maybe the year 2008, 9, 10, something like that. SaaS weren't really something that you talked about back then. And I started this company called Viraya with the founder. So it was only him and me working at that company. How I ended up there...
What were they doing? Sorry if I interrupted you.
Yeah.
What were they doing?
I have troubles to take their elevator pitch, but what we did back then was that we communicated through voice and SMS. So we had like SJ, a train provider, and betting companies as customers. So I did it for 1 year. Then I started at upsales, moved on to pay accounting, and then back to upsales for several years, and then to get accept, and then to where I am now. So I only been within the startup and scale-up world. And what I think that I found very interesting with being in SaaS is that it's very innovative. It happens a lot of things. You never get bored. Never ever get bored. Yeah. It's quite messy. You know, when you try to hire someone for your startup or scale-up, you need to find someone with a scale-up mentality, someone who thrives in chaos, and unfortunately, I do. So I think I just, get stuck in it,
right?
Because I'm super non-techie, and my close friends get like provoked when I say that because they think I am, but I've learned to be, and it's quite peculiar that this personal trainer horse girl, ended up being the second biggest owner of a CPQ that is very complex. So what we do, we integrate other system and ensure that works very well together. And I mean, I mean, how could I end up there?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not an engineer. So
got it. No, but and I think that just shows that software is just a way of getting to the solution, basically.
yeah.
And I think that you're a living testament of that.
I would assume so, and
Yeah.
especially when I worked at Upsales, because I worked within sales at Upsales. I always said to the developers, like, if you have a new feature, try it out on me, because if I can't do it, our customer definitely can't, and that is just a fact. That is your fact.
Yeah.
So in the end, they did. They were like, "Can you understand this?" And I was like, "Good that you asked me." No, I don't.
No, and I would say this as well. I think you understand more software than you say you do, because you've been in this area for so long. But again, what I do understand, where I'm hearing, is that you want to solve problems, and then if software is a means of solving that problem, then that's just the way it is, right?
Yeah, and I just love the fact that our founder Andreas Granstedt, he says that what a computer can do, a person shouldn't.
Yeah.
And I just agree with that. So I just see software as an enabler to do other fun stuff.
Exactly.
Talk with customers or whatever you're supposed to do, not being in a system making stupid manual tasks.
Yeah, no, I get it.
That is insane to me.
I think that's the way it should be. And I think part of the problem why people think that if you work in SaaS, you need to be this super techie person.
You don't.
And I know, and I think we are part of the problem, maybe not you per se, but I think we are a part of the problem, because I think that a lot of people tries to portray it as it is much harder than it maybe needs to be. I'm not saying it's easy, but people tend to talk about their occupation and works, in a way where this is super hard. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult, but maybe the software part is not what's, worst, right? There's a lot of different other things that are difficult. And maybe the people that find software fun should solve those issues. And then the people that find growth and commercialization fun should solve those issues. And then, it's just a team, teamwork in the end, right?
Yeah, definitely. I've actually never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
That it would be, I'm more, is this something that I believe in? Can I say to the core that I truly believe that this will make whatever they do easier or better?
Yeah.
Do I like the company's vision? Am I inspired by the founders? Back in the days, is the salary good enough? I mean, never will I understand the system. I don't understand our system that I'm a founder of. And maybe that is a limitation if we talk to maybe addressing women to engage us to be more interest of SaaS or typical. I mean, you shouldn't even reflect upon that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big competitive advantage for me to have been a girl who sells to begin with.
Yeah.
Now I'm one of 37 founders that are female. I mean, there are VC companies just looking for female founders.
Right.
And anyone or everyone more or less remembers me because I have an unusual name, or I did back in the days when I was a little girl. Now it's not that uncommon anymore. And I'm a female within tech.
Yeah.
So it is only a competitive advantage, I would
100%.
say.
I agree. And I love the way that you look at it, because you can look at it from two perspectives, and you're obviously choosing to look at it from the positive perspective, right?
For me, it's natural.
Yeah.
I could understand it if it isn't. And I've also had great mentors and people who have encouraged me. But for me, this is natural.
Nice. Love it. Tell me more about, your disciplines, what you like, what comes natural to you. We already covered that maybe, the techie part is not what kind of interests you the most.
No.
But tell me more about what kind of disciplines do you feel like, hey, this is actually fun, I'm good at this. Tell me a bit about those.
At work or in life?
At work, I would say.
Tricky question, especially after this year, because it's been definitely a challenging year.
Yeah.
But I would say before that, maybe I truly believe that I understand the customers and I can understand what they are trying to succeed. And I'm very, very curious. My grandma taught me that to live a happy life, you have to stay curious.
Yeah.
And that I think goes very well within sales and of course trying to run a business. And also that I'm a problem solver, like too much. I seek for things that could go wrong, like insanely. So when we run the business, I'm like, I have very hard time staying into my center of interests. Obviously, I was a very poor employee in that sense. I had a hard time sticking to my role. So I try to see, like, okay, what is that we really have to do that will make it or break it? And let's just do that. So if you were to look at grit as a personal trait, I think I'm grit by all means. But all these traits is for better and for worse, right?
Of course.
Very, very high demands on myself, and unfortunately equally high on the ones I work with. So of course that is, I could really see how how I could burn people out, including myself. I've been burned out a couple of years ago, and still try to balance the learnings I took from that. But in general, I would say there is no obstacles we couldn't. Everything's possible. And we have to do everything we can to go there. And to do that, we have to. I'm very much into Formula One, of course, and I'm not cheering for Mercedes. I'm a Ferrari girl.
Okay.
But I'm very inspired by Toto Wolff, who lead the Ferrari team for Mercedes. And they asked him, like, what is the secret sauce? And of course, obviously, it was many things. But he said after each and every race, we really looked through all the details. Where could we have done it better? And that is a good trait, but it's also very, very challenging for the ones around.
Of course.
And that is the same thing if I should close a deal. Okay, why do we have any reasons why it shouldn't be able to close? And what is them? What are they in that sense? And to address them. So I think I'm to say a positive word, like bold and fearless in that sense.
Love it. Nice.
But yet very emotional, as my previous leaders know. So I typically cry, close some deals, close some deals, and then life goes on, you know.
Okay, I love it, No, but I mean, I like the way that you talk about this, because there's so many things that are going on, like doing what we do, right? And especially, I think now in your new role as well, being one of the founders, of course, I can just imagine that there are so many new responsibilities that are upon you.
It's so hard.
Yeah, and I want to talk about this a little bit, coming into the reference of Formula One. I mean, I'm not into Formula One. I'm one of those hipster Formula Ones wannabes that saw it from Netflix, you know, right? So we're like, oh, this is actually cool. But I don't know anything about it.
But we're the real fans. We still admire you, because we need more, you know?
I was talking to a client of mine when I was consulting, and he was this Formula One, like,
nerd.
You said it. So he really loved it, right? And then I said, yeah, I mean, you know that it's that show on Netflix, right? And he looked at me like I was stupid. And I was like, okay, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm not going to bring that up again. No, but I want to come back to what you said about asking yourself, you know, what could have have done better, even if I succeeded? As you say, like, people can think of you as somebody who doesn't enjoy life when you kind of question, okay, we won, right? But what could we have done better? And I love that question, because as easy it is to think that you're going to answer that or ask that question, it's also very easy to kind of just skip past it, right? And move on to the next one. So I love the mentality part of that. So I just wanted to comment on that, because I like it. And
good to hear.
And it's inspiring.
Ask Emil if you like it too.
I will.
Our CEO.
I will for sure. Yeah. I will definitely.
I mean, it's pain in the ass every day.
but he feels as a very disciplined guy as well, right?
He is very ambitious and very humble.
Yeah. I remember him. I told you before. I remember when he tried to sell us Vino a few years back, when he was when I was at Learnifier and he was at Vino. So that's the first time I met him, actually, and still remember him. So he's a good guy.
Definitely.
Tell me about you're one of the co-founders. You're the CRO. Tell me a little bit about the day-to-day, life of Wilma at vloxq. And
well,
what takes up most of your time, and what gives you the most headaches?
I would definitely say owner questions, because when they are, it's so. I wouldn't say drowning, because it sounds really tough, but it's when if you are in a relationship and you're like arguing with your spouse, and you go to work, and you should do the worky things, but you can't, you had this really great argue, and you are like sad, maybe you're embarrassed, maybe you're a little bit insecure, you're afraid, you're angry, you are all those feelings. That is what I didn't see coming, because I always been working very closely, always together with the founders, and I it's so embarrassing. I thought I knew how it was. Man, I was wrong. Okay. Wow, girl, I was wrong, So I would say the trickiest part of running your own business is you have so much in stake of it. You have invested your time, maybe all your money, all your pride. That's, to me, a lot.
Of course.
And you just want it so bad to work, And if you are like me and truly, truly believe in what you actually provide the market with, I mean, there's no, I'm going to quit.
No.
You just have to do it, right? And I think that is typical for founders. You just have to do it. And everyone says it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's like, yeah, it's a marathon race, but with a sprint
mentality, right?
Yeah, sprint mentality. Yeah. And also it's such a high speed all the time. So it's like to balance those overall often fears together with just get shit done. Sorry, my language.
No, you're good. Don't worry about it. That's fine, actually.
So a typical day, it's like to balance, okay, I have to book meetings. I have to ensure that the AdWords is up and running. Should I do that AI service for AdWords or shouldn't I? Wow, I have to close those 4 deals. Did I involve all the stakeholders? Oh, yes, we have this board meeting tomorrow. Should I prepare something? Oh, God, I have to fetch my kid at kindergarten in 1.5 hours. Like, what are we going to have to dinner tonight? Have I trained lately? So it's like to balance those stuff and just ensure that you deliver like some kind of nice environment for people to work in, including yourself, to being able to have this endurance mentality over years. It's not weeks. It's not, when you're working within sales, it's like a new week, you have new meetings, or new month, new quota.
Right.
Now we're talking years or decades.
Sure.
Or decades. Sure. And always be very, very keen on your time. Actually, today I was like sitting in my notepad and said, okay, to 2024, I must be much more keen on where I put my hours in. I have to really look it through. I have to have Emil like review my week schedule. Right. Could I do it any differently once again? Can I do it differently to achieve more and enjoy it more while I'm doing it?
Yeah, because I wanted to ask you that, of course, when you just mentioned the random thoughts in your mind, right? And we all have those, right?
No one want to enter in here, I promise.
but and also if you take that into the context of you're building vloxq, right? How are you measuring progress? Like, do you feel like you're doing progress? Is it easy to feel progress in this world that you're living in right now?
Is it ever?
Yeah, it could be, because depending on what you do. But I mean, specifically for you, I think where you are right now, you're on this amazing journey. Shaping out a category, launching a company. Balancing life and
raising
so on.
A kid.
You know what I mean? So that's why I wanted to ask you that. Like, and I mean, depending on who you ask, people could probably say, it's pretty easy, because I go to high school and I practice soccer or football on the evenings. It's easy for me to track my progress because I'm happy all the time, basically, right? So depending on what you want to measure, but in what you guys are doing right now, especially building vloxq, progress is everything, right? Yeah.
Definitely.
So do you feel it's easy to measure that? Because I know it can be difficult to measure it early in a startup journey, right? So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I know it's a big question, but take your time on it.
Thank you. Well, in one sense, it's super simple. It's just to look at the numbers. And I'm, as a person, has always been like the result speak its own language. But when the result doesn't speak what you wish them to talk about, then it's harder, I would say. Of course, you can measure progress. And I mean, the company was founded. It's still alive. and yeah, we do grow. So that is good, I guess. But my goals are so much higher. Our goals are so much higher.
Yeah.
Are they realistic? I wouldn't think so. I never set up a realistic goal. And I was very provoked when I worked at GetAccept. And as usual, back at the time, I report to one of the founders, their current CEO, Samir.
Yeah.
And we were to implement OKRs, which I could recommend. I think it's really good. And he said, yeah, Wilma, but we have to set goals. So it's good if you only achieve 80% of them. And I'm like, I don't work that way. I want to achieve 150%. And I've always had this 150%. And I don't know why it's not like 200 or 140, 150%. Then I'm satisfied.
Okay.
So when I did achieve that, like feels like 1,000 years ago, back at Pay Accounting or Upsales,
Right.
then I was happy. I could be like happy into my core. And we are definitely not there at vloxq.
No.
And could you be in this market? I don't know. But for me, I can't say that the market is tough. Yeah, okay, but it's tough for everyone.
Yeah.
And we have to survive nevertheless.
Yeah.
And I jumped off this great journey as a partnership manager globally for GetAccept to run this business.
Right.
For me as an owner, it's attractive with rapid growth. So in one sense, it's very easy. It's just to look at the numbers.
Right.
But when the numbers doesn't speak what I wish them to do,
Yeah.
then I think it's very tricky.
Of course.
But I'm so grateful that we have our new chairman since a half year back.
Yeah.
I'm Invest CEO Joachim Karlsson
Yeah.
as our chairman. And every time we meet him, he's like, hi guys, you're doing great.
Yeah.
And I was like, what kind of cheerleader are you? This is not great. This is like...
Yeah.
But he helps us to celebrate the wins and to enlighten us. This is very important stuff, and we are good at that.
Yeah.
So we have to continue in doing that, but of course, be even better.
Yeah, of course.
So it's tricky to answer.
No, of course, I understand. Looking at it then, I mean, obviously growth and progress are kind of intervened, right? But you told us about this ARR now is 3.5 million, right?
Yeah.
And
SEK. So
SEK, right? Yeah. And then you said you've been on the journey for about three
and a half
years.
years.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me about the start of that, right? So when did the majority of this revenue come? Was it in the beginning? Was it all spread out over the 3 years, or has something finally ticked where you kind of feel like, hey, this is the customer base that we're going after? Tell me about that journey of finding the first revenue, right?
Sure. Since I've been selling CRM, I have everything in my CRM, but I'll try to take it on top of my head. I would say we had a few customers already from the beginning, so that was good, I feel. The market back then in 2020 was, if I compare it to nowadays, so much easier. I wish that we had started the company maybe 2 years earlier or later.
Why is that?
It was sure during the pandemic, but digitalization was really something you talked about. It felt like you could put in a lot of hours, but be more or less like quite sure that you received something back. Now, well, we'll come to that. But what happened 1 year after we had founded the company is that we were 4 founders from the beginning. 2 of them, the whole product department, they left.
Okay.
So they left a half year or 1 year in. So that was, of course, very scary. So during a half year, more or less, we didn't have anyone who could develop our service. We're a SaaS company. So that is super weird.
Lovely position to be in, right?
Yeah, it's like, wow. And then we had this great guy who's actually going to do Y Combinator now. So I'm so happy for him.
Okay.
But he decided he wanted to stay where he were. So, and I was pregnant at the time. And I remember I went to the office and Emil was like, have you spoken to Andreas today? I was like, no. I was like, okay, I think you should sit down, you know. And this guy, he has said that he do not want to take the CTO role. And I just started crying. I was like, what is this really, man, you know? Because back at the time, I didn't feel that the sales were the tricky thing. Of course, it was scary to sell when we didn't know, will someone take care of the customers?
Right.
So that is much easier when you are employed. You have your role that you should at least try to stick to. And you only have to think about that. But as an owner responsible for all our revenue, but being very afraid, will someone take care of this?
Of course.
It's tricky to sell,
Definitely.
right? Even though you have to.
Yeah. You can't come into the room with that confidence you want.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. You have to like fake it till you make it.
Yeah,
Or as after the Serendipity founder said, you have to have that humble bee mentality, right? So you have to just do that. And we did that. So I would say for 2 years ago, we hur säger man? Our MRR grew by 3 times during just a very short amount of time.
Okay, and that was, you said a year ago? Or
2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
2 years ago. So then it happened a lot.
And what changed there? Did you do any changes in the product? Did you change your offering, or was it just?
I would say, I mean, the company had been really up and alive for 1 year, and we have quite long sell process, and that was like.
So it was more of a result of building up a
like
pipeline,
harvest.
And then okay, got it.
I would say harvest.
Yeah.
And we were more like into, okay, we have to find someone who is bold enough to buy CPQ, or we don't typically talk about CPQ. It could be a price configurator, something like that. We have to find this bold persona, and we had managed to do that in a couple of cases, who actually had the power enough to convince people on the inside that we need this, and we're going to buy from them.
Yeah.
And what happened then was, during that spring, we thought we had like nailed it. We just have to find that persona. And it sounds maybe stupid, but LinkedIn Sales Navigator they have been working at American company before, or German companies, they know what CPQ is. Okay, we target them, we go for them, blah, blah, blah. Then I went on a couple of months, more or less, on maternity leave. And then I come back, and we just realized, like, wow, we really have to go up market. We have to do some changes.
Okay.
And now we're into 2023, this year.
Right.
And we said we really have to increase our activity level. And we had some ideas of ICP verticals, but everything more or less like stopped. So I remember that we were in our CRM and just looked at the data. We should be data-driven, they say.
Of course.
So we increased our activity with 72%, but we booked half of the amount of meetings. I can say, wow, did we work hard?
Okay.
We worked hard.
wait, just so I understand this. You did more, not less.
Yeah.
Okay. And was that a result of changing sort of the persona? Was it maybe the market conditions? What kind of what did you decide was the reason or the issue?
What we learned was that we have to go to mid-sized companies. We shouldn't go to those verticals, a bunch of them. And what more did we learn? I would say, if we were to take one learning, it was to be at bigger companies, and also how we should talk to people. How we're going to pitch this.
Right.
So I feel it was many man hours for sure put into that, but now we have drilled down to approximately 1,000 companies in Sweden that we are targeting very strictly for 2024.
Right.
What also happened during that time was that our partners, because I believe when we're going to talk about growth, I truly believe that you should have a partner-led growth in that sense, especially since we integrate too closely to other CRM, but it's very tricky to scale globally if you don't do partnership, and that is what I learned when I worked at GetAccept.
And that is a part of the was that a part of the growth, not the growth strategy, but was that a part of the goal in the beginning? Like when you founded vloxq, was it set out to be a global phenomenon rather than maybe in a local, well, not a local, but a Swedish version, a Nordic version?
We have our aim is to be the leading CPQ provider in Europe, Northern Europe, when the CRM or the ERP isn't enough. So, and that it has been from the beginning. There is where we see a great market fit. So our idea is to have a product that is so good, so we get a lot of word of mouth, so you actually like working in it, then a marketing fueled partner growth. And what we found out this year, when Upsales, Lime, and Get Accept at the same time, more or less, it was almost funny, you know. During the same couple of weeks, our friends, they like called us and like, "Hi guys, you know, we're really keen on our partnership, but we're gonna launch CPQ." We were like, "Okay, have you guys talked to each other? What's happening here, you know?" And what happened then was that their CPQ solution, we don't want those customers because they are it's less than we can provide with. We are like a customized, you know, when you really need a hardcore CPQ, then we are really good. But the other ones, we are happy if current system already can solve that. But what happens then? The sales rep at Lime, the sales rep at Upsales, the sales rep at Get Accept, do you think they will mention us if they believe they have the data? They won't.
No, of course not. No.
So I would say 2/3 of our ARR is connected to partnership.
Okay.
And that channel was like muted.
Right.
So that was during the same time.
Yeah.
So what we've done focusing on, but because we have a great fit with HubSpot, we focused everything on HubSpot. So we launched in their marketplace. We mapped out which sales rep should we talk to at HubSpot, which are the ones that are keen on this or feel that actually could help them close more MRR, because that is the thing with partnership, you know. You have to have the win-win-win, both for the customer and the both partners. And also which HubSpot agencies should we talk with. So that's another learning for this year.
Okay.
So,
okay, nice. We're already into the growth part, right? So I love it that we're just naturally coming over to these blocks, right? Interesting about the HubSpot partner thing. I haven't really thought about that, but of course, HubSpot sells a lot through their partners, and then obviously that should be your counterpart as opposed to maybe talking directly to HubSpot, right? In one case, at least.
We do both.
Yeah, that's nice. And did you find any success there?
Yeah, definitely.
It's nice. Cool. Because I was, as you know, that's interesting because I was also at a HubSpot partner before, and I know we talked about that briefly. And I like how they have actually succeeded with selling HubSpot globally via partners. So of course that is a strategy that we should sort of emulate, but it's also easier said than done. But I want to talk more about this because you mentioned the partner network, and that's one of the questions I have for you today is how you guys acquire new customers, right? And I know there's probably a different mix there, right?
Yeah.
Talk about that mix, like so the 3.5 million ARR that you guys have right now.
Yeah.
How did you acquire those?
I would say more or less 1/3, like typical outreach.
Yeah.
Or väskdängkringa, as we say in Swedish.
Right.
And that is what those 1,000 companies in Sweden that we are targeting next year. Then we have our ideas of which companies we should approach and how we should approach them. So another one that we have is through partners. And since we have limited resources, and I would say nevertheless, because at my time at Get Accept, we had hundreds of partners, and I was most of the time alone with them. And one of them was Salesforce. You know, no man could do this. It's an insane task.
Right.
And my old friend...
Meaning acquiring them as a partner or handling them as a partner?
Handling them.
Okay.
Because partnership is like you should educate another company's sales rep to talk about you without getting a commission. I mean, who does that? You know? That is crazy. But my friends at Get Accept knows this feedback, and I know that they work very strategically today. And we were learning back at the day. So what we have chosen to do is we will focus even more on HubSpot moving forward. We will also have packaging together with them. So it becomes very clear if you are a HubSpot user, a HubSpot customers, when should you look at vloxq or some similar solution, and when don't you need it? And then, of course, we actually do have some random MQLs, the inbounds,
of course.
funding us through LinkedIn or I would say G2. We work with that too. But what is most surprisingly, I would say, that is through HubSpot Marketplace, we have received leads from Puerto Rico, Australia, US, Hungary, like where are they coming from, Poland, and so on.
That's an obvious channel then for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. So we think we could do a lot there.
Nice, cool. And
if I could just add one thing with partnership,
absolutely.
because that is like something close to my heart and something that's typically often people say, that don't work, it does definitely work. And if you want to scale outside your natural country, that is like the only way to do, because what is the thing is that they know when the timing is right. They are very trusty, so they really, they truly believe and have a high sense of trust for that kind of partner. So if they recommend you, you should just not fuck it up during the sales process, right? So I would say to anyone out there who's trying to scale a SaaS company, of course you should work with partnership. But you should be really keen on, the partners that we are choosing, make them never more than 5 until you have made those 5 really sending you leads on a regular basis. And you should be very keen on, are we addressing the same ICP? Do we have a very mutual culture? And do we have a clear set of win-win for us working together? It's not harder than this. This is what you have to do. And then you have to, like, as a friend working at GetAccept, who is I'm not that strict, or how you should say it. I'm like, if we want to party, let's do party. But she is like very, proper. She's like, Wilma, it's really nice with this lunch and learn things, but we have to super with our customers, so we have to drink with our customers, or partners. Sorry. With our partners. So you have to like choose them wisely. Choose rather one than many. Then establish relationship and those 3 things I said. And you will see ARR. And you have to have someone who owns it properly, because it's very hard to do with your right hand, as I'm doing right now.
Because I was going to ask you about that.
I did it at GetAccept. So I would say, next to, there are several people now working with partnership, but back in the days, we had only Fredrik Melander, team tailor, and I, who more or less did this. And he taught me like everything he knew, and he's a real pro with this. So I can do it with my right hand, because I'm one of the founders, and I've really done it beforehand. Otherwise, you have to hire someone who can do this.
And I want to stay at this topic a little bit, because I haven't really talked about it with somebody who actually knows it. So let's stay here a little bit, because I think it's interesting.
Love it.
Do you think the partnership sort of journey fits for all of the SaaS companies out there? Do you need to have a certain type of criteria before you do it? Talk a little bit about who it fits and maybe who it doesn't fit.
Boldly, as always, I would say it fits everyone. But the partner type depends on what you're selling. So what we are selling is an enterprise solution. With everything that comes to it. That's why it's stupid of us being bootstrapped, but here we are. And then, of course, it's what we say in our dialogues with customers, which is 100% true, is that we are an add-on to your CRM. Because our ICP has a CRM. We have those, of course, the ones that already, you can be customers because you're like the cool kids. But the other ones, they should have a CRM. So when the CRM isn't enough, bring us in. So what you have to find here, and if we look at GetAccept, now they have the digital sales room, but back in the days they were sales enablement and e-signature. Then it's an easier SaaS solution. It's an easier SaaS implementation. Then you should have the ones fit for that. So then it was like great for us to have joint ventures and events with Vine. We had the same addressable market, but also, of course, as we are working with the CRMs. So you just have to look, your buyer, what do they also use, or who do they also trust? Who will know when they are eager to buy what we can solve? And then it's reasonable. So it could be everything from, you take GetAccept and Vine, we had an integration, but no one used it because we ourselves more or less didn't even think it made sense. So we just had the same buyer. Then it's great to partner up. But when we partner up with HubSpot agencies, is because HubSpot lacks our functionality. And to win the deals when they are head-to-head to Salesforce, maybe we can bring some value.
Right.
Or at least we think we can do.
Of course.
So that's a little bit different.
Yeah, and then tell me about the dynamic and how that has changed now. For example, when you, as you were saying before, some of your partners went on and kind of did the exact same thing that you did, not exact the same thing, but started offering the same type of product that you guys are offering, right?
Yeah.
How does that then affect the relationship? Do you cut ties, or do you sort of work around it? And you don't have to go too deep here, but I just want to know, because that's a possibility, of course, with any partner, right?
Sure, but that's the thing. As someone with partnership that I just love, it's like someone. No one just translating directly from Swedish. So maybe be a bit wrong here, but like silent diplomacy.
No, I think everybody understands that.
And what I typically did, if we go back some years, I was working at Upsales. I had a lot of sales record and done great achievement there. And the next week, I was at Super Office headquarters in Norway. I felt dirty, not to say. And people knew that I went from a competitor, and now I was like a spy or something in their headquarter. They have like more gold on the walls, and but just super humble people. But it was a very weird situation for me, and I'd been at Upsales for like 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And I'm a very loyal as a person, so it felt like super weird. But then I just realized, because I lived in Gothenburg for a couple of years, and that being from Stockholm, being in Gothenburg, that's not like great. People don't like you when you're from Stockholm. And then I always said like, "Hi guys, I'm from Stockholm. I'm super unnice. I'm just gonna brag and be like all this." And people are like, "Hey," thought I was funny, or at least that I could, give them some jokes.
Right.
And then I just understand it's the same thing with partnership. So I was like, as long as you're honest that you have a relationship with several people, then people thinks it's okay, right? And people are like, yeah, that is true.
Right.
So we, of course, really, truly appreciated when our friends at our partners gave us a heads up before we saw it in a LinkedIn post.
Right,
like, "Hi guys, we are going to launch CPQ." All of them said, "It's not what you do. It's for the ones that that aren't in need for vloxq."
Right.
And that is still true. But then everything else that I talked about happened.
Yeah.
And we were like, we can't be mad at them.
No, of
we
course
know that CPQ is a struggle and is very business critical. As Nolo, our customer, said, "You are our heart and you are our brain." So it's obvious business critical.
Of course, yeah.
So we were just, what can you do?
Yeah.
It's like when your spouse is mad at you, just like, in that case, maybe say you're sorry, even if you don't.
No,
and just lean back and, okay, we will see where this will land.
Yeah.
Will they continuing develop CPQ?
Yeah.
And then Andreas Granstedt, our founder, and me, he also co-founded Upsales together with Daniel Wikberg.
Okay.
I mean, we have been within the CRM area for so long.
Right.
So one of the reasons that we founded vloxq was that none of the typical CRM can solve this. Also, Salesforce bought a CPQ company because it's tricky.
Yeah.
It's a tricky thing to develop. So we were more, okay, let's see where it put us. And of course, stay connected, share success stories with shared customers.
Right.
For example, Nolo, they have Lime as their CRM.
Okay.
And now I think we're a bit back on track.
Okay.
So when they call us, because they do again, and we are very happy for that, yay, it's the perfect fit.
Yeah.
It's the ones when they can't solve it. They have talked about their CPQ solution, and themselves and the customer realize this isn't enough.
Yeah.
Great. That's where we fit.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think when it comes to partnership, you have to be like very respectful and really understand the business and try to be like over honest and over transparent. Otherwise, partnership doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because once again, it's the win-win-win situation we're looking for.
Of course. No, I like it. I mean, the reason I'm asking is, of course, at probably every company I've been at, partnerships has been a part of the conversation, right?
Yeah.
But
good to hear.
Yeah, it is a part of the conversation. But what I'm asking is because I want the people that are listening in also to think about this, maybe from somebody that has done it a lot, right? Is when we know more, when we know better, we can also do better, right? So that's why I wanted to ask you a little bit about it. We were talking about it internally because we feel like we are also in a position where partnerships could benefit us, we could benefit them.
Yeah.
It could probably be a win-win. or a win-win-win rather, right? But we haven't got started yet, so I'll get back to you on that. If
takes time.
Yeah,
I would say
I'm sure
2
it
to 3
does.
years to really see. It's like launching a podcast,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
It takes 2-3 years before you know, was this a good bet or not?
Yeah.
But of course, you should see some trends before that,
Of
obvious.
course, yeah.
But I could recommend the playbook, Crossbeam. They
Okay.
have a partner playbook.
Yeah.
I found out about that from someone in UK working with partnership like a few months before I ended my employment at GetAccept.
Yeah.
And I almost cried when I found out. It was like, wow, if I just could have read this 2 years ago.
Like, finally, why didn't
so
everyone
many
tell me
mistakes
earlier?
I could avoid.
Got
Man.
it. Now I gotta ask you also, like, you've been in the CRM space for a lot. Like, I hear you talking about upsales, right, and super office and so on, right?
Yeah.
What CRM do you use? What did you land on? Because when somebody has been in the CRM space, it's always interesting to know what are they actually landing at. So what do you guys use?
It's one thing what we are using. It's another thing what I would recommend anyone else using, depending on their situation. We, of course, work with upsales as of today because I know it by heart.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been implemented upsales, so I know it by heart.
Nice.
And they have a really nice features that more or less no one knows about is they have account-based marketing within the CRM.
Okay.
So you could say like everyone in this industry with a deal higher than this, they should have that ad targeted to them.
Okay.
But we are going to change to HubSpot.
Okay.
Because since you heard, we get leads from all over the world, which is overwhelming.
Yeah.
I'm very happy for that, very grateful for that.
Yeah.
But then we need other functionality when it comes to marketing.
Yeah.
That international part.
Yeah, I have a trouble seeing, or I can't really see somebody from, you mentioned the country in South America using upsales maybe. I don't know. Do they?
No, they don't. And then when it comes through HubSpot Marketplace, but it's more for us to see, okay, what kind of web visits do we have from that that country, so we could be a bit more aware. No, and of course, if we're going to strategic scale with HubSpot, I think it makes sense to use their tool too.
I think so too. It's interesting because we're just in the mix here at BusinessWith, where we're actually changing from different CRM. I'm going to mention them by name because I don't want to bash them. No. But we're actually changing to HubSpot, and I think the reason I'm asking also because I like the CRM space, right? So I told you before, I've been on the HubSpot partner side. So obviously I've been repping HubSpot for a long time. I've been using it at multiple companies. So naturally you tend to want to use the CRM that you know. Yeah. But I always say this, like, even I might be biased when it comes to HubSpot, but I'm actually looking at it, what makes the most sense here, right? And I usually, when we talk about SaaS companies, early stage, what we want to do and so on, that's for me what makes the most sense. So I wanted to know what your thoughts were on it. I
think it's very up to. I mean, we said at upsales, all the sales manager when they changed roles, that was directly a new lead to the new business organization because we knew it was an easy sell. But you lose time when you don't have a CRM up and running, when it's tricky to learn or to implement. So I think that is just up to the persona or the person per se, what one used to.
True.
And I mean CRM, the CRM landscape, if you compare it to CPQ, what have been troubling for us this year is that no one knows about CPQ. I know. Everyone knows about CRM. CRM, I mean, it's like my mom knows what it is, right?
Exactly.
My mom, she doesn't.
No, I know what you mean.
But the CPQ area is no one have known about it already, and that was very clear to me when I met you guys actually at Socius this spring.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, there was a lot of nerdy SaaS people there for sure, and there was only 2 people that I spoke to, and I spoke to a lot of people that have really knowledge about CPQ since before. And there was a Netherlands company, and there were a phenomenal woman from Ox, Ingrid Bonde, who was talking about pricing. I talked about it before. So that is also like, if you have a mature category or a less mature, but that's
No, I can just imagine, and I want to talk about this as well because we're at the sort of growth stage, right? Where we're talking about what works and so on. And I think that what you talked about when it comes to partnerships, I really like that because I think that's extremely valuable. Thank you. But talk about, when you guys do marketing, right? When you talk to potential new clients and so on, and then being in a category that's, as you're saying, nobody actually knows what it is.
Yeah.
How do you even position yourselves? Are you positioning yourself as, hey, we are this cool feature on top of your CRM? Or, hey, we are something that's revolutionizing how you work with pricing and so on? Because whatever gets you in the door kind of is what you use sometimes. I remember I used to use that when we were doing an edtech platform in 2014, right? Because I was using because I was using words that resonated with my buyer, but as somebody who knew the space, I was like, this is actually not what it is, but it is what it is to the buyer.
Yeah.
So how do you position yourselves?
The $1 million question.
Yeah.
That's going to be our hockey stick.
Yeah, exactly. But talk
yeah.
about it like from today. Like, where are you? How are you thinking about it? How are your buyers resonating with it today? And how do you position yourselves as of today?
Yeah, it's a very good question. We started off, okay, we know for a fact, since we've been in this industry, if you will, for like 20 years, Andreas, me for maybe 15, and the other co-founder, something similar. We know that spreadsheet is applied when the CRM isn't enough. We know this.
Yeah.
We just have to find all of those spreadsheets.
Right.
So, we tried, AdWords, we tried like email send out, saying exactly what we did in phone, and during the phone it converted, but the emails, no answer, nothing. Like tried all those outreach tools, not to mention anyone because it weren't their fault, it was ours. No, of course, the content wasn't good. Like spreadsheet, that was our main focus. And of course, some of that did converted.
Okay.
Then we tried like, okay, but should we talk about CPQ or shouldn't we? It's well, I believe it's some kind of 83% of all sales rep in the US has a CPQ.
Okay.
It is a category. I mean, Salesforce have bought a CPQ company.
Right.
I mean, that must be trustworthy. Or should we talk about this? Shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm making it a little bit more simple than what it actually was. But okay, then we found those bold personas, the few, very, very few, who have heard about something like CP beforehand, right?
Right.
And then we were like, okay, and every SaaS investor, all the learnings of scaling a SaaS companies, you have to find that vertical or that sentence or that pain or something, that one thing, We were like, okay, but what industry is that really? And, we're looking at your customer base and who should we copy and how should we do this? And then we just found out that, okay, we have 3 companies who all sells coffee machines and similar. And they do it completely different. Their pricing strategy, I mean, that is their competitive advantage, right? Yeah. They have different CRMs, they have different ERPs, they have different pricing logics, they have different discount logics. We can't just copy and paste it. No. It's completely different. So very confused. Then Joachim Karlsson, as I mentioned before, our chairman entered, and he asked a lot of questions. Of course, he was going to be the chairman, and he's a very experienced person. And he was like, but what you are doing, guys, you're like securing the sales organization from doing costly wrongs. Right. And I was like, that is true. So, because what I've learned beforehand from Susanne Rönnqvist at HubSpot, VP of Marketing, she's like, from a good heart, not to fool anyone, from a good point of view. It's like, if they are talking about purple umbrellas, you have to talk about purple umbrellas. So I'm like, we have to find our purple umbrella. But when he mentioned from the opposite, it's like, that is true. So now what we are doing, we have this campaign ongoing, the cost errors of cost in quotes, like 5 to 15%. You do leave on the table. That is true. To like increase the sense of urgency. This is business critical, but we still typically need that spreadsheet. Right. So I don't know if that was a good answer, but it's a learning journey.
No, of course, and it talks, and I mean, it's a perfect answer because it explains how it actually is. Like, you gotta try different messaging versions. You gotta try different ways of positioning your product. And I just wanted to know how you guys are doing it right now.
You just have to measure the data. And what we see now, we have three things. We have the HubSpot marketplace, where they do like, we need an CPQ to HubSpot.
Yeah.
As Emil talked about yesterday, I'm like start crying. We're like trying to educate the market over here, and then someone from Poland says we need a CPQ to HubSpot. Like, okay, and we have. So we have that, that thing going to the HubSpot marketplace, and then we just have to be, I think, a bit bold to increase the sense of urgency by saying this is business critical.
Yeah.
And then we have to find those who use a spreadsheet or a data. What's the name now again? They have like configured their own database, and now that person is going to leave the company,
right?
And they don't.
And they took
the
all
IT,
the formulas with them, right?
Yeah, they don't want to maintain it, so they need a new solution.
I got it. Yeah, for sure. I understand. Yeah. Tell me then about, in all of this that we're talking about, right? Basically, what we're talking about is go-to-market motions and go-to-market strategies, right? And as you said before, which I liked, was the partnership was one of them, right? You've been doing the traditional outbound, which is, still alive. People think that doesn't work, but it always continues to show that that's a part of what's bringing in the pipe.
No
right?
one calls anymore because people don't dare. So call them.
Yeah, and I know what you mean. And we see it here as well. And then I know you talked about the third thing was the partner, not the partnership, but the HubSpot marketplace, of course, right?
Yeah.
But would you say you guys have a sort of structured go-to-market plan, or do you guys do it quarter by quarter, or do you go day by day? And there's no shame in this. I'm not saying there's a wrong or a right way, right?
Or isn't it? I would say no, it's not structured.
Yeah.
Not enough.
You have
it's structured in here, But if I were hit by a bus, it's good if someone else knows what we're up to. Yeah. So I would say, like, okay, for being at the company stage we are at, definitely.
Yeah.
But could it be better? 100%.
Of course, I understand. Yeah.
100%.
But that also, I think, posed the question, which is the next part I wanted to get into a little bit, is and I agree with you. Depending on how big the company is, it needs to be, less or more structured, right? But how many are you now at vloxq?
We're 8.
8 people. And you were 4 founders?
We were.
And
it's a bit messy.
I'm just trying to understand how many of them.
Yeah, we have 3 now.
Yeah,
so
okay,
Andreas,
so 3,
me, and Emil.
Okay, cool. So then the rest are kind of, they started...
partners or...
Yeah. Okay. You're still a fairly small team, I would say, so you can just talk about what you guys are doing, and I can understand why it doesn't, maybe why it's not as structured as you would want it to be, as opposed if you were 800 people, right? So I think that's totally fine. But I just wanted to understand, what's working, and I think you covered that as well. So I think that makes sense, of course. Is there anything you're thinking about in terms of, growth, in terms of strategies that might work, that you want to try, that you still haven't tried, things that, interests you, or that you see now, when you're talking to peers, you're talking to friends, colleagues? Is there anything now that you think that we should actually do that? There's
a lot of things we always need to do. Yeah. And there's where my mind is more or less all the time. It feels like, okay, where should we be at? What should we do next? What's our next move? And what I feel now, that we will increase our quality in our outreach. In that sense, we will be super picky with what companies that we address. So if we see that crazy Wolf of Wall Street call time during the spring, which it were,
I want to come to your office sometime and see how you guys are doing that.
Yeah, that's the thing. We are a remote first company for good and worse. So because we feel that is a huge way for us to be competitive as a workplace. Attracting talents that when they have to work hybrid. For us, they can work from wherever. But of course, that is trickier to build a culture with that. But I was at the time in Spain. And my fiancé were on parent leave with our son.
Yeah.
People ask me, do you work in Spain or like chilling around? I'm like, chilling around? Are you kidding me? Yeah. I'm running a bootstrap SaaS company. There's no chilling here, though. But the kava is cheap.
Don't you think that people, generally have that image of somebody being in Spain, but you're like, what's the difference if I'm working in Spain or if I'm in, central Stockholm?
I mean,
they got work
I
to
could
do.
work harder because I was happier, because I'm one of the poor people that actually get influenced by weather.
Yeah.
So we had that for Wall Street, time going on. And what we can see in our CRM now is that we have booked more or less equal amount of meetings per month, but we create so much more pipeline.
Okay. Nice.
So that is a really important KPI for us to measure how much, how many quotes we send out.
Right. So, but if you take it a step back, like what contributed to the increased pipe? Was it choosing more wisely, or?
Yeah, I would say all the learnings that we gain. Okay, should we approach the CFO, the CEO, the CEO? Do they have to have a RevOps team?
Yeah.
Should we talk to the sales rep beforehand? Should we go straight to the board member, etc.? All those calls,
Okay,
to all those different kind of size companies, to all those kind of different industries. We learned a lot. So now it's more like, okay, these are the companies we each think we're gonna approach. We're gonna approach these people. We're gonna say this, and we have to search for X, Y, and Z to know if our product is good enough for them or not. And then we have to ensure blah, blah, blah to know this is great fit, because we have limited resources, and we have to increase our win rate. So, no, I lost track a bit, but that is fine. Like learnings we gained back then. And and you asked me, what did you ask me?
No, I also wanted to know, like, do you do any...
what we are thinking of, the things we want to try.
Exactly,
So now we also, so that is like one big thing. And here I think we have to be more like account-based thinking, like these mega deals guys, how they approach, work more with that kind of strategic sales. Also, it puts higher demand on our sales process to ensure that we do involve also those 12, 20, how many people they are in their decision making, do the ROIs, etc. That's another kind of sale, I would say.
Yeah, it is.
Combined with, as I mentioned earlier, doing this combined packaging with HubSpot to help them where they see the CPQ is needed, to make sure that we have a great fit with those kind of customers, both the bigger ones, when we can say we are totally customizable. We just look at whatever you have and we will ensure that works. I mean, that is like management consulting more or less, but on a SaaS retainer. SaaS retainer. The thing we are looking at now is maybe doing more strictly. So this is what you get. This is like CPQ best practice by vloxq. This is what you can achieve with this. So that is one thing. Then I'm sure there's so many other things, but we're actually trying out some, I mean, you have to do the AI, right?
Yeah, of course.
So we're trying to AI tools for the moment, and I hope that could, within the marketing space, so I hope that for just AdWords and prospecting, so I hope that will bring some luck as well.
Nice. Do you have a marketing person, a strict marketing person on board?
We had, how do you say it? Underkonsult. Consultant that worked for us.
So as an interim kind of CMO-ish.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Still, how does that look today? Like, do you have anyone responsible for marketing?
Not for the moment, but we had it during the year.
Okay.
And I think that it worked well. It's also someone that I know since beforehand. Our next hire in the growth team, that is also an interesting question. But what I would for sure like is to have more established leads coming in than rather than hiring several salespeople and saying good luck to them. We are not that kind of sell. No. Since it's quite tricky, or I must say, I'm sure there are people much more experienced within SaaS and selling SaaS solutions than me, but it's tricky to sell CPQ. No. It's really tricky.
I think, and I agree with you, and especially as we said, when we're educating an entire market on something completely new. Or I would say this, I always think that marketing should have a place early on, but I'm very biased as a CMO, of course. But honestly, especially when we know that we have long sales cycles, especially when we know that maybe our brand is not as known as we would have wanted it to be.
Vloxbot.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I'm always of the assumption that, hey, marketing should be put in place early on, as opposed to investing in more salespeople. The only time that I would disagree with my own statement is when you see that, hey, there's a runway here that I could execute on faster with more salespeople, meaning that the sales cycle is not as complex as we thought it would be. The sales length is not as long as we thought it could be. So therefore, marketing could be more of a support function as opposed to driving in more leads. Then I totally agree. Hire more salespeople and go nuts, right? But in all other cases, I would say bring in marketing earlier on, because the compound effect of that is more valuable than salespeople banging the phones and doing outbound emails early on. That's just my theory on it, or my take on it, right?
Interesting. I agree.
But going on, then I wanted to know more about the. We've been joking back and forth. You guys doing a bootstrapped company, targeting the enterprise level, right? Talk about more about that. Like, I know you said early on, if this is not confidential, right? You said, hey, depending on who you ask, we are a bootstrapped and we will stay bootstrapped. And in this question that I'll ask you now, I'm not looking for any perfect answers, right? I just want to know your thoughts on it. Because yes, as we said before we started recording, I think, you could build a company fully bootstrapped. There's many companies that are doing that. But there's also, scenarios where having capital actually helps you build the company faster, or it helps you get to a certain point faster, easier, smoother, right? Tell me a little bit about your own thoughts on this, because is this, and also I want to ask you before that, is this the first time founder for you?
Yeah.
Okay. But you've been in multiple companies that I know have taken on capital, as you said before. Talk about your perspectives just on, going the bootstrap way versus actually taking on capital. And there's also a third alternative, I think, where you could lend some money. It's not always a give a chunk of my company to get some money. You can actually go and loan some money as well.
Yeah, from Alvin.
Yeah.
I think it's a very interesting question. It all comes back to what role you have taken in. So if you are one of the owners or founders in that sense, then it's super important to ask yourself, what kind of business do you want to, what kind of business do you want to build? How should your life look like during those years? You just should, this is for the next 10 years of my life. What will probably happen during this 10 years? I mean, in and off work life. What do I need to have endurance and to, be up for the job for all those years?
Right.
So that is the first question you're going to ask yourself, depending on who you are. And I would think that you have to have then a cap table that is flexible enough to being bootstrapped or to be VC backed or taking some kind of money if we now talk about loans.
Right.
My experience working with both bootstrapped companies, with the pride that brings, I would say, and that we can do it mentality, what I'm really in love with. I just admire that.
Right.
I would say it's not maybe even tougher, but you have an additional stakeholders. You have the investors. And even though you are just employed on the floor, you know that, you feel that. Your manager feel that. And the founder, just breathe in and out. That is another stakeholder too. So it's hard to answer that question in general,
Okay,
So,
let me ask you one question then, which I think might be easier to put in context, right? Do you think now, where you're at, do you think the differentiator for you is money, or would you say it's more something else? Like, let's say we put a VC here now, and they said, "Hey, here's not $1 million, but hey, here's a bag of money. Do you think you would be able to do things better, faster, or do you think that money is not the issue now? It's more of a getting the market up to date or getting the product to a certain state."
What's good now with the economy as it is now, and if you look at general television, then they say, now it's really hard for tech company, and beforehand they could just, throw money in, and, but it's more complex than that.
Yeah.
Because the ARR multiple is the one that drives the value.
Of course.
And the growth will enable the ARR that will bring the value.
Yeah.
So it's just not money that we just throw somewhere. And what being bootstrapped is all about is being cost efficient. But there's not anyone out there now not seeking to be cost efficient. So that is the thing. If you know...
Why do you say that no one out there is seeking to be cost efficient right now?
No, the opposite. Sorry, that everyone out there.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait.
To negation. Keep myself into it.
No, got it.
Everyone out
just
there.
wanted to know if I
Good that you ask.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like everyone has to be cost efficient.
Yeah.
And maybe that hasn't always been the truth.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
The demands hasn't been to that all the time, right?
No.
Because it weren't needed.
No.
It was good that you could throw money and test stuff.
Yeah.
Because the faster you fail, the faster you learn. Right. So I'm get a little bit upset when I hear that because I don't think it's true.
I agree.
So yes, when you can say, or when you have a strong hypothesis, like we can throw money at this, and the data says it should work, then you're ready to take in money.
Yeah.
So if we are there now or not, time will tell. But if we have to have more resources, that would have helped us, definitely. From a year ago, we weren't that certain.
Right.
So that is more like the question you should ask yourself. If we had unlimited resources and money, what should you do with them to ensure that it brings value?
Yeah.
So if you have that mentality, then of course you can take money from the start.
Of course.
No problem.
True.
Because today everyone needs to be cost efficient.
Exactly.
Tricky.
No, and I don't know. I like talking about this particularly because, as you said, it has been a major shift in how we value money.
Yeah.
Right, and also how we value how we spend the money. I would say rather, and if we remove pride and own assumptions on whether you should be bootstrapped or you should aim to take in as much capital as possible because that would raise the valuation of your company and everybody will be rich and happy and so on, that's not for us to decide, right? But what I am understanding is that especially when you're at a stage where maybe the market hasn't fully understood what we do right now, maybe we haven't actually found the right type of target right now. Maybe we haven't seen, the buyer multiple or enough times, even for us to put marketing dollars in. Then I don't think it's a good idea to even put some VC money in, right? Because that's just my own thoughts about it. But
it's two different journeys as well.
Yeah,
it really is. It goes even faster, if possible, when you have money because you have more resources.
Yeah, sure.
And as the owner, if you were the founder, you own maybe 80%, you probably won't if you take in VC money.
Yeah.
There will be another kind of journey.
Yeah.
But maybe it's a little bit more better for your private life during the years.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean, or it could even enable that the output it's greater in the end.
True.
But you never know, right?
That's true. 100%. I agree. Staying on growth, financials, metrics, they all sort of go into each other, right?
Yeah.
But is there anything in particular that you guys measure now that is like, I don't know, the key metrics that drives, or sort of not the drive, but the key metrics that guides you into, hey, how are we actually doing, right? Do you gather around the table, the entire team, and talk about, a certain type of metrics? And if you have any, what would those be at vloxq?
Of course, I would say the typical SaaS metrics, like the ARR growth. Do we have any churn? Because I'm not the one I'm just stubborn. We should never have churn. How do we grow on existing customers?
Right.
So that is like very typical, I would say. If we divide it a bit more, of course, we look at the conversion time from first booked meeting to when they actually signed the deal.
Yeah.
We thought they were very, very long, but it showed us it was only 4.5 months of active sales process. So it was like, that was interesting,
Yeah.
And also, as I mentioned earlier, how much new pipeline we build.
Yeah.
week to week. It's very important for us to measure because that sense, okay, the quality, is it increasing?
Yeah.
So I would say like typically growth numbers. I still feel it a little bit troubled to have those CAC to LTV. We're just too few, and I don't really think it makes sense yet, but I would guess it does.
I understand what you mean, because especially as you maybe said also, or maybe that was my assumption, maybe you're not putting a lot of marketing dollars in right now, or marketing.
We have like a limited, growth organization, and a quite big delivery or product organization.
Yeah, and I think in that sense, I think it also doesn't make sense now maybe to look at that. It would, of course, if you add up, maybe a bigger growth team, of course, and this is also tricky. Where do you draw the line of what the CAC even is, right? So
exactly. I've now been taught through my podcast Feel and Grow, and Andreas, his former CRO at Quinix, he was like, but it's only the thing that actually directly connected to doing the sell itself. Like the salaries, the ads, nothing else.
Okay.
Not if you have to build a new integration. That shouldn't be okay. Okay, I'll stick to that to make it easier. But we also do see. I mean, we have been obviously evaluating a lot. What partnership should we do at? Okay, how many of those agency we are targeting actually do send us leads?
Right.
How many do that on a recurring basis?
Yes.
How much ARR do that drive? As the same thing we do with AdWords. So we're looking at, I would say, everything connected to growth that we can see patterns that we're going at the right direction, that we are super focused on. And the other thing, I think we are sure we can improve that. Time for product releases, how efficient are they? How many bugs is it or isn't? How many support tickets do we have from our greatest customers? Are they profitable to have? Those kind of numbers. We aren't really so keen into that yet.
Got it.
So it's more forward-leaning.
Yeah, nice. I want to ask you a few last questions on, the buyers. We've already covered a lot of it, so that's actually nice. But the first thing I wanted to know more about is, what kind of fears do you see that your buyers have when they're talking about when you're presenting vloxq?
I would say that historically, the ones who implement the CPQ is like a manufacturing company. It's quite funny actually. We have a Swedish company called Takton that was the first ones, more or less, who provided with the CPQ. They did did the research about CPQ, and then they founded this company, and it's really, really good into enterprise manufacturing of today. And when they talk to people, they talk to, of course, the ones that who gonna deliver, the ones with the headache. When someone has sold something that doesn't add up at all, the machine doesn't work, without the service agreement, and it's just all wrong, because there is where you find the greatest pain, as well as the one who are in charge for the profitability.
Right.
So if we have that bit of a very short history lesson in Spanglish, and look at today, the one that we do found with this, it's yet still the same. That's typically the ones when it becomes very costly, or there are a lot of errors, or the customer satisfaction is very low, or the employees are more or less fighting about it, or when it takes a lot of time to do a quote. You have to calculate, and it's very, messy. And their fears, they are more like, it's like when you call a best friend, and that best friend is just trying to, talk about their day, but you have such a huge problem yourself. Blah, 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 it's like, so they just open their heart with. It's like they didn't know we existed, and then we just happened to call them in the right moment, know. So that is like the outreach approach, when we are like enlighten them. There's something that's called configure, price, quote. But when we talk to the ones like inbounds, whatever kind of, if it's a PQL, partner qualified lead or whatever, and they are like, we need a CPQ to HubSpot. Their fight is more like, okay, do you really understand how special we are? This is, once again, very business critical. This is our heart and our soul. This is how the blood is gonna boom, 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 boom through the veins. Exactly. Do you understand this? Because the other didn't, and we have talked to a few. So they are like, their fighters would be like, could you really solve this? I would say.
Yeah, got it. And then the last, I have two more questions for you. The last one is, of course, like, if you could summarize who your ideal customer profile is, or who your ideal customer is, that would be, let's start with that one. Who would you say vloxq fits the best for? And I know that can change, so we're not excluding anyone from doing business with you, but I just want to know.
I would say definitely that you are a mid-sized company, you have a matured price book, you are keen to ensure that is followed. Like that is something that you talk about internally. Typically you work with a lot of discounts, you have a product library that is quite wide. You have to like steer this up. And we often speak to, I mean, if it's SaaS companies like Zympa or Retriever or Wordfavor, we typically speak directly to the CRO, the RevOps team, or the COO, or the CFO. That is like the typical personas. When we talk to the product selling company, very sloppy mention here, then it's often like the CEO, the CFO, or someone in who gonna deliver. But we have to find someone who believe in internal efficiency and know that if that is low, then our external efficiency will be low too. That is to say, we will leave money on the table. And often we come in, when the company is acquired, do you have someone up there looking down and ask, okay, why are we discounting this? Or do we discount? Or how do we price these stuff? And people are like, I don't know, people just sell. So you want to take control over your pricing and work with that as a strategic tool.
Okay, nice. Thank you. And then the last question, I always ask my guest this.
Ooh, exciting.
It's more exciting for me. It's more of a help for me, actually. And also an opportunity for you to give a shout out to somebody. So this is more of like, we've been doing this now for, I don't know, an hour plus maybe. Talking about you. We're talking about your company, a lot of growth, your customers, your clients. Who do you recommend me to do this with the next time I do this?
Of course, something I should have thought about before. I think you should reach out to Josefin Garin. She works at Lime. She's a really interesting person, very good leader. She's worked within Lime for many years. She's newly become a mom too, with the experience that is. So I would reach out to her.
Okay, nice. Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing where vloxq is in maybe a year. Catch up again and listen to what you guys have been up to for that year, right?
Yeah, I'd love to, and thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to join.
Would love it. Thank you so much for coming.